Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to imagine for a moment the simplest thing, your breath. Feel it filling your lungs, the subtle rise and fall of your chest. Now hold that breath. Feel the tension building, the pressure rising in your chest, the heartbeat accelerating, the oxygen-starved cells whispering urgent pleas for relief. That sensation is stress. It is primal, unrelenting, and yet, so paradoxically, it is the gateway to your greatest transformation. There's a moment, quiet, invisible to the world, when your heart rate spikes, your stomach twists, and your mind starts sprinting in 10 different directions. Maybe it happens when the email lands in your inbox with the subject line that reads, urgent. Maybe it's when your partner's tone shifts mid-conversation and you sense something's wrong. Or maybe it's when you stand in front of a mirror and realize that another day passed and the change you promised yourself still hasn't happened. That moment is stress. That internal tremor, that wave of tension that grips your chest and shortens your breath, that is your brain sounding an alarm. But here's what no one ever told you. That alarm isn't telling you you're broken. It's telling you, we've been sold a lie, that stress is toxic, that it's a malfunction, that it's something to be eliminated, suppressed, numbed, avoided. We medicate it, we drown it in distractions, we label it as weakness. But the truth, the neurobiological truth, is this. Stress is not your enemy. It is your most precise and intelligent feedback system. It's your body whispering and sometimes screaming that something within you needs to evolve. And I say that stress is a catalyst. I mean that it is the ignition point where potential meets demand. Your brain has a default setting. It likes predictability. It likes routine. But transformation doesn't happen in the familiar. Growth doesn't emerge from comfort. It erupts in the stretch zone, right where pressure lives, where your body is flooded with cortisol and your mind is forced to choose, collapse or adapt. And if you listen closely, if you pause right in the center of the storm, you'll realize something radical. Stress is the very mechanism that opens the doorway to your next evolution. Think about this biologically. When stress hits, your amygdala, the primitive part of your brain that governs fear and survival, lights up like a wildfire. It wants you to react, to fight, to flee, to freeze. That's its job, but it's not the whole picture. Because you also have a prefrontal cortex, the crown jewel of human intelligence. This is where executive function lives. Planning, judgment, emotional regulation. The moment you recognize stress, not as an emergency, but as information, you interrupt the amygdala's hijack, you bring the prefrontal cortex online, and just like that, you go from reactivity to response. That shift isn't just mental, it's physical. You've just changed the architecture of your mind. The most resilient people, the ones who rise while others crumble, they don't have less stress. They have more neurological flexibility. They've trained their brains to pause, assess, and choose a conscious response. They know that when stress shows up, it's not the moment to withdraw. It's the moment to pay attention. They lean in. They get curious. Why am I feeling this? What is this trying to show me? Where is the opportunity inside this discomfort? That level of self-inquiry doesn't happen by accident. It's trained. And it starts by changing the narrative around stress from enemy to ally. You see, the brain doesn't grow in silence. It doesn't rewire itself in stillness. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections, is most active when challenge meets action. Stress, when paired with intention, becomes a neurochemical catalyst. In the presence of acute stress, your brain releases BDNF, brain-directed neurotrophic factor. Think of it like miracle growth for your neurons. It primes you to learn, to adapt, to restructure. So the very condition that makes you feel overwhelmed is also the one that gives your brain the chance to evolve, if you meet it with the right mindset. But here's the danger. When you chronically suppress stress, when you ignore it, avoid it, medicate it, it doesn't disappear. It internalizes. It reshapes your nervous system into hypervigilance. It hardwires a baseline of fear. And soon, you're no longer responding to stress, you're becoming it. You carry it in your shoulders, your gut, your tone of voice. You normalize it. You accept exhaustion as the price of ambition. But stress left unexamined doesn't make you stronger. It makes you reactive, disconnected, and biologically brittle. The transformation only happens when you face it. There's an incredible study that changed the way we understand stress. Researchers followed thousands of people for years, examining the link between stress levels and mortality. As expected, people who reported high stress had higher death rates, but only if they believed stress was harmful. Those who experienced high stress but viewed it as helpful, those who believed it prepared them, strengthened them, made them more alert, had the lowest mortality of all, even lower than those with low stress. You see, it wasn't stress that was killing people. It was the belief that stress was the villain. That's the pivot point. Your perception of stress determines your biological response to it. And perception isn't a random gift. It's a trained muscle. You train it through awareness. You train it through reflection. You train it by asking yourself, when stress hits, what is this here to teach me? You might be thinking, but some stress really is harmful. Some trauma doesn't feel like growth, it feels like destruction. And yes, some stress is toxic, especially when it's prolonged and inescapable. But even in those moments, your body is not trying to punish you, it's trying to signal to you that your environment, your choices, or your boundaries are misaligned, that something vital needs to be restructured. And if you listen, not numb, not deny, but truly listen, stress becomes a map back to your integrity. I want you to consider this. Every time you've grown, truly grown, not in surface ways, but at your core, it was because something inside you was stretched. You were pushed. You were called to the edge of what you believed you could handle. And at that edge, something cracked open. A new insight, a deeper strength, a clearer boundary. That's not a coincidence. That's biology. That's transformation. And it never comes gift wrapped in comfort. In the work I've done with CEOs, athletes, trauma survivors, and everyday high performers, the common thread is not the absence of stress, it's the ability to integrate it. They journal after hard days. They reflect before reacting. They breathe intentionally when tension arises. They know that stress doesn't go away by pretending it's not there. It goes away when it's metabolized, when it's felt, understood, and alchemized into growth. We talk so much about success, but we don't talk about the price of unprocessed stress. The small daily betrayals we commit against ourselves when we smile through anxiety, say yes when our body screams no, when we fill our calendar to outrun the discomfort of stillness. These habits stack, they become neural patterns. And soon, you're not responding to life, you're reenacting it. That's why stress must be honored, not feared, not worshipped, but honored. It's your brain's most honest attempt to wake you up. And there's beauty in that, because the same brain that panics can also pause. The same nervous system that spirals can also stabilize. Your physiology is not fixed, it's fluid. It's waiting for you to lead. But leadership starts with listening. Can you slow down enough to feel the tension without becoming it? Can you observe your stress without being consumed by its story? Can you ask what the lesson is instead of what the escape route is? Because here's the truth, stress isn't always a sign you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it's the clearest evidence you're on the brink of doing something right. That edge, that trembling edge where your hands shake, your thoughts race, your heart pounds, that is where the old version of you begins to disintegrate. And a more resilient, more aware, more integrated version is waiting to emerge. But you can't reach that emergence by numbing the signal. You reach it by respecting the signal. Start small. The next time stress hits, don't rush to soothe it. Just pause, name it, feel it. Ask yourself, what is this really about? Don't look away, because the information stress carries is more valuable than any self-help book, any motivational quote, any temporary distraction. It is raw, it is urgent, and it is real. And when you learn to decode it, you become unshakable. You want transformation? Then get intimate with stress. Get familiar with the pulse in your neck, the tightness in your chest, the resistance in your thoughts. That's your body preparing you for the next level. Don't waste it. Don't waste the tremble, the tension, the discomfort. It's not your downfall, it's your doorway. Walk through it. You think discipline is hard? Let me tell you what's harder. regret, the deep ache of knowing you were capable of more, but let your mind talk you out of it, the weight of potential left unrealized because comfort felt safer than consistency. But here's the truth you must etch into your bones. Discipline is not restriction. It is freedom. It is the quiet, consistent architect of the life you say you want. It is the builder, and your daily habits, those seemingly small, insignificant choices, are the bricks. The life you are living right now is not a result of your dreams. It is a reflection of your systems, your rituals, your patterns, your defaults. You don't get what you wish for, you get what you consistently act on. And the brain, your most powerful tool, thrives on repetition. It is designed to wire whatever you feed it, good or bad. Every time you choose a behavior, your neurons fire in a particular direction. Do it again, and those connections strengthen. Eventually, they become automatic. Your habits quite literally carve the neural architecture of your future, which means that every sip of water you take in the morning, every minute you spend journaling instead of scrolling, every time you move your body, even when you don't feel like it, you're not just improving your day, you are building a brain that expects excellence. Let me be clear, discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. You're not here to chase flawlessness. You're here to create alignment between who you say you are and how you show up when no one is watching. Because when stress hits, when life blindsides you, and it will, you won't rise to the level of your aspirations, you'll fall to the level of your habits. The strongest people aren't born with discipline. They train it, they cultivate it like a muscle, one rep at a time. They understand that success doesn't come from motivation, it comes from automation. When the action becomes who you are, not just what you do, when showing up is no longer a decision, but your identity, and that's the shift. When you move from discipline being something you fight for to something that flows through you, you begin to crave the morning light, not because it's easy, but because you've trained your brain to associate sunrise with growth. You crave discomfort, not because it feels good, but because you've rewired your nervous system to recognize challenge as transformation. You choose presence over distraction, clarity over chaos, process over outcome, and you do it again and again and again. Because greatness is not born in grand moments, it's forged in the tiny decisions no one claps for, the early wake-ups, the deep breaths before you react, the water bottle on your desk, the 5 minutes of gratitude before bed. These are not trivial acts, they are neurochemical declarations that you are in charge, that you are not at the mercy of your mood, your past, or your circumstances, that your brain, your most sacred asset, is being programmed on purpose. Let me remind you of something science already knows. Your brain is always watching. It tracks your choices, it remembers what you repeat, and with enough repetition, it hands over the reins. That's how habits become identity. That's how discipline becomes effortless. That's how transformation becomes inevitable. But here's where most people get stuck. They wait to feel ready. They wait for a wave of motivation to carry them forward. But motivation is unstable. It fluctuates. Discipline, on the other hand, doesn't care how you feel. It acts, it moves, it keeps the promise, even when the mood fades. That's real power. That's integrity in motion. So what does this look like in real life? It looks like having a morning routine so solid your nervous system calms just by stepping into it. It looks like ending your day with reflection instead of distraction. It looks like building rituals around your energy, knowing when you are most creative, most focused, most aligned, and protecting those windows like your life depends on them. Because it looks like knowing your non-negotiables, your daily bricks, the things you do no matter what. Because those aren't chores, they're anchors. When the world spins, when your emotions crash, those habits hold you steady. They remind you who you are. And maybe the most important shift of all, it looks like trusting that small changes matter. That 5 minutes of silence in the morning can shift your entire day. That showing up when it's inconvenient is how self-trust is built. That keeping the promise to yourself, even when no one sees, is how your confidence grows. You want to change your life? Don't wait for the perfect plan. Don't obsess over outcomes. Start with the next breath, the next sip, the next word you speak. Build a foundation so rooted in intention that the storms of life can't shake it. Make your habits holy. Let them become the language of your future self, speaking through your present actions. Because here's the truth, every decision you make is a vote for the person you are becoming. You either cast that vote consciously or you let the world cast it for you. Discipline ensures that vote is yours, that your brain is being shaped by your highest values, not your lowest impulses. And if you're listening to this right now, you already know something in you is ready. Something in you is done with half promises and delayed dreams. Something in you is tired of being stuck in cycles that numb rather than nourish. That something is your deeper self calling you forward. So start now, start small, but for the love of your own future, start. Let your habits be sacred. Let your discipline be fierce. Let your identity rise to meet the life you were born to live. And remember, NeuroPower Talks is here because we believe in the biology of transformation, because science has proven what the soul already knows. You are not fixed. You are not stuck. You are rewiring every single day. So rise, build, train your brain like your future depends on it, because it does. And one day, when your life is unrecognizable, when the people around you ask how you did it, you'll smile and say, I didn't wait for change. I built it. Brick by brick, discipline by discipline. Day by day, that's the truth. And now it's your turn.